pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll with planet.
Water towers fly!
Starting downside of speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
It's coming up. Oh, hey. Hey, what's up, y'all? How's it going? You know the drill. Let me know if you can hear me right now. You should be getting my voice, John Galloway, NASASpaceflight here, and you should be getting a live feed from Boca Chica. So let me know in chat that we are 5x5. It looks like we are. I also see some crab by crabs in there. So we'll have to see if Jack can look around. But we are here for today's exciting episode of NASA Spaceflight Live, where we will be talking you through what's going on with Starship SN9 out at Boca Chica, answering questions, doing a ton of Q&A, and honestly, practicing with some of our robotic equipment. So since we are ready to go here, looks like everything's good. Yes, the crab cam. Thank you, the crab cam. Let's introduce the other people who are going to be hanging out with us today. Chris Gebhardt, are you on comms right now?
I am indeed. Hey, Das, how's it going?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Chat, let us know if you can hear Chris G there, the assistant managing editor and live stream commentator extraordinaire here at NASA Spaceflight. Just let us know if you can hear Chris. And then also, let's give this a try. Out in the field, Jack Beyer, do we have you on comms?
You do. Can you hear me? Am I robotic or normal?
You sound normal for now, Jack.
Great. What's up, everybody?
All right, so y'all, Jack has moseyed on down there to Boca Chica to stand by for what may be the hop of Starship SN9 in the coming days. We'll be talking all about that, and Jack's actually out there right now. This camera view is from Jack's camera. This is a temporary camera. This is a crude camera that Jack has deployed. This is not a robot in this position. We do have some more robots headed around out there, but we'll be jumping through a couple different views and stuff like that as we answer some questions here today. And then I think Michael's here. He's always here helping with streams. If there's a live stream going, Michael is probably here somewhere in the background. Michael, I didn't know if you were going to say hi or not.
Hi.
Hi. Super great. So Michael Baylor there in the back end doing a ton of work with the overlay and graphics and all that sort of stuff. But our goal today is going to be getting a little practice with our gear as we answer questions and let y'all know what's going on with Boca Chica. So Chris, let's have you start giving a little bit of an introduction here about what the status is, what's going on with road closures. Are you good to go?
Do we have the graphics to help me out?
I think so. Do you want me to put the graphics up?
Yes, please.
All right. Let's see here. Boca Roads, take me home. Wow, I appeared for a second there.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, So after some initial attempts at testing and everything, yesterday, here we go for the new road closures. So as you can see, nothing over the weekend, nothing today or tomorrow. So that would put the earliest possible static fire now on Monday, and then backup days for that, depending on how everything goes, or potential flight days, as well with some of the new TFRs. Or not new TFRs, but some of the TFRs that we know are valid or were valid last check. So so a lot of it is really going to depend on that static fire, which it really has for a long part of this flow. We've seen a very truncated flow, which has been nice to see them sort of clicking through some things a bit quicker than they have in past flows. But again, with this being a test campaign and a new vehicle, some of that smoothness that we saw with SN8, can't always be replicated. So whatever issues they were having there with the static fire attempt, now would be Monday for that next possible one. But that's pretty much the status that we've got right now for what's going on with it. You can see cars continuing to head out there toward the pad. A very busy work day out there for everyone. So
jumping over to one of the robots there. This is the robotic camera that we have over at Boca Chica Village on the other side of Starship SN9. So we've got Jack's camera On one side, you can see the heat tiles, and from this perspective, this is over on the beach. The fins, the flaps are sort of folded away from us here, and you can see this would be the bottom side of Starship as it does that belly flap, and you can see those heat tiles there. And then if we flip back over to the robot, this is from the other side, so you don't see the heat tiles here. You see the fins are folded, sort of in this direction, off to one side. But those are those
Yeah,
two
one is
cameras. Go ahead, Jack.
I'm looking at the belly. I'm looking at the belly, and from the Boca bot, we're looking at the back.
You
So
got it. It's like the ventral. Jack is on the ventral side here. This is like the bottom. Imagine it was a shark. This would be the belly of the shark, and this would be the dorsal side over here. Like the fins folded up in this direction. This is sort of the direction the fins fold when it's doing the belly flop maneuver. They don't fold down into the airflow. They fold up like this to maintain stability from this direction. And just for giggles, really quickly, it's a bit of a hazy day today, but let's have a look at this real quick. Yeah, this is the long range camera, so fighting a little bit of haze out there today, but this is a long range camera that, Jack, we're going to need to get the level on this one just a little bit more when you get back to the hotel, but this is from South Padre Island proper right now. So
oh,
I
got
think,
it. Yeah, some stuff might have gotten jostled as I was rearranging things earlier. Sorry.
hey, all good. I had Jack jumping through all sorts of hoops here, y'all, to get things ready. He got a lot of packages there at the hotel that he was working on, being coached through how these packages sort of fit together. So, Jack, thank you so much
that
for
the
for
the
yep.
lady, the lady, the very nice lady, I might add, at the receptionist desk when I went down to get them was like, "You have 3 packages," and I was like, "Okay, cool. That's the number I was expecting." And then she's like, "You might want to get that cart, like the baggage cart, because you're gonna need it." Oh, and she's like, "And there might be more," and I'm like, "I know. Thank you so much. Thanks for putting up with all my packages." So yeah, definitely was that was pretty great, honestly.
Oh, well, again, Jack, thank you so much. It's nice. I was overnighting some things down there, and the hotel is a business, and it's there at South Padre Island. It's a little bit easier to mail things down to South Padre Island than it is to mail it to Boca Chica Village proper, right? So we sent it to the hotel. There's somebody there 24/7 to sign for it, yada, yada, yada. But the flow of equipment and technology to Boca Chica has definitely increased the last few days, hasn't it, Jack? Ah, yes.
Yeah, I
So,
Well,
didn't
not
get a
Jack. Oh, yeah.
chance to use my I didn't get a chance to use my fancy new headset yet, but hopefully that'll give us some better field audio as well.
absolutely, Chris, go ahead. You were jumping in.
Oh, well, yeah, and I was gonna say, yeah, hopefully the fancy headset works for you, Jack, like it's working for me. So yeah, hopefully that works. But we were talking about robots, and there is a question about the robots, Das.
Uh-oh, a question about the robots. What was the
Yeah,
question about the robots?
Dougal wants to know how the robot assembly is coming and if there are number updates.
So no number updates. There are multiple robots in the queue, and it takes me time to put each one together. They're like grass-fed, artisanal, bespoke robot deployment here. Um, but we are continuing. We do have some more tricks up our sleeve for the flight of SN9 coming up this week. And the longer the flight delays, the more tricks will arrive at Boca Chica. So some audio enhancements in the works, some more camera angles, some different types of cameras that we've got coming out there, and then of course all the normal stuff that we always fall back on. We'll have Mary's camera with her fantastic view from all the fantastic spots she gets. Jack is out there as well. I think Jack's deciding on where he's going to go, but all of this is sort of coming together so we can bring you hopefully another fantastic live stream whenever SN9 actually does the hop. But for today, y'all, like Chris was doing with the questions
Josh, can we
there.
quickly switch back to
Oh,
the other
sure.
camera? Jack actually said in our back channel there's some rain coming in, so he's gonna have to adjust.
Oh, all
But
right.
you can see that tanker with Starship food is departing. It looks like.
Ah, yes, the Starship food.
The Starship food, nice. So, like we were saying, we're just doing the live show today. We don't have like a script or anything to go through. I already see a ton of questions being stacked up in the queue. And if you have a question for us, tag us in chat at NASASpaceflight, and that will get your question into our software here that allows us to click on it and put it on the screen and that sort of stuff. And then super chats as well. We're able to do all this stuff. We're able to deploy all this technology out to Boca Chica and other places because of your super chats. So let me grab a couple of those real quick. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay on how quickly we read them out. But kicking it off with Moldy Space Industries. Moldy Space Industries says, "Hey nerds, what's up? It's been a hot second since we have DOS host. So I proposed the DOS fan club." Nice. Wait, DOS fan crab, that actually says. We don't want to pull a Thomas there.
That's great. In the preview screen, I too read it as club. Love it.
Jeez, look at the
Wow.
robot there.
Yeah, I'm panning the robot down because I just saw water droplets hitting the lens, so I did not like that. But
We can see the raindrops on the lens, and of course Jack affected by that as well. Jack was having to change his position because of the raindrops that are falling on his head. But if you zoom through the drops, like the drops are only really evident when you've got sort of the wide shot. If you zoom in, it sort of ignores the drops a little bit.
Yeah.
They just mess with autofocus, you know.
well, it's not on autofocus, so there you go.
Aha, there you go. You've apparently done that before, huh?
Well, I just noticed when we started it was struggling with autofocus, so I kicked it off autofocus.
Excellent. So again, y'all get your questions into chat. We'll just run through, but this is NASA Spaceflight Live today. We have about an hour and 15 minutes left in the show where we're just going to be talking about Boca Chica. So tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight if you've got questions, etc., etc. And Multi-Space Industries, thank you for that DOS fan crab. It was one of those decision points, right? Where it's like, well, should I be on for the potential static fire stream or should I be head down in the garage assembling more robots? And because I was not on the streams the last couple days, we actually got a more gear out to Boca Chica. So that's why you haven't seen me on audio as much. I've been here in chat listening, and I've been listening into the streams and stuff like that. I just haven't been on mic the last couple of days. But Dejomsks, I don't know. Wow. Dejo MCS, however you pronounce that. Thank you for the new membership, joining the crew here. And then Dennis Clip says, "Cash for stuff" with 5 curly L's. We appreciate you, Dennis. Olin Alstenstein, something along those lines, is a new membership as well. And then Christian Bradley Hub says, "Looks like the sky recondenser has been activated." Nice.
I like
the
that.
sky recondenser. So Chris,
Is that what we can, like, a petition to have that be what we call like storms that like we make on Mars after it's terraformed? Sky recondensers.
that's actually not a terrible plan.
Right?
We've got a sky condensation event or a sky recondensation event or something.
Exactly.
So Chris, do we want to just go through some questions here? If you just let me do it, I'm going to talk about robots constantly, so you probably don't want that. But do you
Yes, I
wanna
think
grab
we
the question?
definitely should. Yes.
All right, good deal.
Did you want me to? Sorry, did you want me to take point on that,
Oh,
or?
sure. Yeah, if
Okay.
you want, or I can grab some, or go ahead and grab a
Whichever.
couple.
Yeah. I'm used to not hosting, so I don't.
That's me tossing it to you. All right, back to you, Chris. Let's get some
Okay. Good.
questions.
Yes, we could do that. Okay. So question here. It's kind of looking a little bit farther into the future than Starship, but a question here that's saying, what comes after Starship? Does SpaceX have plans for future rockets, or are they focusing just on Starship for now? For now, it's Starship primarily. There is another future vehicle, Dragon XL, that will be of service for the Lunar Gateway. So that was announced last year, I believe. And so that's currently under development as well, and will be another evolutionary step on the Dragon front. But other than that, it's Starship all the way for SpaceX right now. In terms of both in terms of its orbital capabilities, its Mars capabilities, and as it is a part of wow, that last part was a really bad sentence, so I'll try that again. As is its role in the Artemis program, for all of the international partners who are involved in that return effort to the moon. So yeah, I normally joke that when this question comes up, that probably warp drive is next for for SpaceX just because of what advancements they've already given. Why not go for warp drive? Yeah, I don't know.
I
That
was
would
gonna
be.
say, I
Yeah.
think the next plan for the SpaceX rocket is they have a Starship that we're working on, and the next rocket is a bigger Starship.
Oh, true, true. Like a scaled up it's like when you're playing Kerbal Space and you hit tweak scale and go double. That's what they basically plan to do with
Careful.
Starship.
Don't tell DOS that you're using tweak scale in other mods. He might get mad at you. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, it's all good, Jack. Play however you want to.
Man.
Play however you want to play.
I was gonna say then DOS is gonna get really mad at me because I've been experimenting with like a poor man's version of like the Epstein drive from The Expanse by using the cheats for like unlimited propellant.
Yeah.
But
No,
hey,
it's all
it,
good.
it's fun.
Yeah, that's sort of the point. A lot of people they're like, "Oh, DOS hates mods and stuff like that." And to clarify my position, when you're just learning the game, you shouldn't install the game and then immediately download 500 mods and install them before you even
True.
know how to take off, right? But once you get into it, like when you played as much as you or Jack, install all the mods, play however you want to play. Just if you're trying to learn it, don't deluge yourself in mods before you've even got into the off the launch pad, you know?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, I can
Exactly.
agree with that. I
Yeah,
can agree with that. I was
that's
just
my
giving you a hard time because you saw I was using MechJeb and you gave me a hard time, so I just got you back.
Well, to clarify, Jack, you were having trouble with a mission that you needed some help on, and you brought it to me, and I said, "Well, maybe if you hadn't used MechJeb, you'd learn how to figure this out yourself." I think is what I said.
Oh, I
Yes.
I instantly saw that as a shirt in our merch store. Well, maybe if you hadn't have used
So I used to do a thing called Kerbal Help Desk. Like long ago, every Saturday or Sunday, I would get online for like 4 or 6 hours, and I would just do live Q&A for Kerbal Space Program. Right? I haven't had time to do that in many years at this point, but one day, I'd always go on. I'd be on camera over on Twitch. I'd be answering questions, da 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 da, da, and people would come and they'd ask questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? Whatever. And one day, I just put the mech, like a screenshot of MechJeb on the screen, and I said, MechJeb is here to answer your questions. Ask away. And then I just let it sit silence for like 10 minutes because MechJeb didn't answer anybody's questions. Anyways. Yeah. So back to Starship. Let's hop back over to Starship here.
Yes, indeed. We've got a couple of super chats that have come in too, and as well as the question queue. But CAMP Railroad with $5 was saying, "Hey everyone, I'm given a 110% chance that SN9 will stick the landing, and there will be fireworks to celebrate this milestone. Hopefully not from SN9. We agree.
Nice.
Fireworks to celebrate success, but not from SN9." And then Dan with 10 Swiss francs. Should we name the super heavy thrust puck Jurassic Park because it houses 28 raptors? Ah,
What?
see, I could get behind that.
It's
I
actually
could get
pretty
behind
good. I like it.
that. Yeah, I like that. Hunter with a super chat saying, what do you think about the High Bay High Bar restaurant?" So from what I gather, Elon threw out that there was going to be a restaurant on top of the High Bay, but I admit that's
Oh, Chris, he's been tweeting
Yeah,
about it all day. He's been
yes,
tweeting up a
okay.
yeah, he
storm.
tweeted about it again today.
Ah,
Something about a
see, I have
glass
avoided
floor.
social media today so far.
Oh,
Yes.
look at this. Michael is having the robot go over to the top
Ah.
of the high bay here. And just earlier today, here, I'll flip it this way for now. But just earlier today, Elon had tweeted out something to the effect of a glass floor in the high bay restaurant on top of the roof so you could look down into the rocket factory. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
what? Okay, Elon.
Wow.
Yeah, he's already tweeted about the High Bay Bar, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I think he tweeted it calling it the High Bar, which I think is the best possible name, for the record. But yeah, we've known about that. Whether it's going to be reality or not, it sure seems like it is. Although I like to always remind viewers that an Elon tweet does not necessarily make reality. Sometimes it's just a tweet, but it sure seems like it's going to be a thing. And now with the added detail of a glass floor, so you can look down at the rocket factory, that is pretty insanely cool if it happens. And The other tweet that he tweeted out was like, I don't have it in front of me right now. Twitter won't load because all of my precious Wi-Fi is going to bring you my annoying voice. But it was like Elon said that he super supports public places around the production and launch facilities as long as it can be done safely. And
I
I just
love
thought that
that.
was really cool because part of the reason why we have all the amazing views that we have are because of people like Mary who are super dedicated to bringing us these views. And the fact that there's a public road right there and a public beach right where I am right now, we can get these types of views. So that's really cool that it's that support is coming from the top, and hopefully won't be something that changes anytime soon.
I'm gonna make some observations. This is the robotic view from Boca Chica Village, looking at the top of the high bay right now. But it looks like the high bay has a roof on it. Do you see on the right hand side there, Chris, where
Mm-hmm.
it has a little peak to the roof?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the restaurant is going to be inside of those girders there, or is that central area room for like a gantry crane or something, or is that going to be because it
It
doesn't seem
seems
like you
like,
put something on top of this.
yeah, no, it seems like it's that top area. I think you're right, Das. And I don't know if part of that is crane and part of that is bar, or maybe like if you're if you're looking at it, there's sort of like the area in the center where the crane would go, right? And then there's two open areas on either side.
Yeah.
Presumably, I mean, I kind of thought that would be like crane machinery or room for it to travel or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm dying to see what this ends up looking like, and I hope it actually turns out to be real.
Yeah, I don't know if you like are those two deck observation areas on the sides and then there's an internal area in the middle, but where does the gantry crane go? Are they going to put something on top of this? The only reason I said that is because that roof angle, you see the little peak of the roof on the right-hand side making it seem like that's a finished roof on top of the thing. So would they put another structure on top of the finished roof? Certainly you could do that if you
I don't
wanted
think
to,
so.
but huh.
That would be yeah, that doesn't make sense because then that negates the glass floor, right? Because you can't see through that roof. So it
Yeah.
would make sense that it's what we're looking at right now. It's that area, and maybe that central area is where the crane goes, or maybe it's below what we're looking at right now, just below it. I don't know. I to look at the blueprints or to be a fly on the wall in some of these meetings where Elon's like, right, so there's a bar at the top of the high bay, right? And the designers are like, but it builds starships, and he's like, right, but there's a cool bar at the top, right? And they're like, wait, now it has to be a cool bar. And he's like, yeah, with a glass floor and glass windows. And they're like, but launch site, rocket factory. But it's Elon, so you have to do it. That's so cool.
That's true. I mean, what if to serve your drinks, you actually just the bartender just put the drink on the top of the gantry crane, and then it would just the entire crane would move over and pick your drink off. Yeah, that wouldn't happen.
It's like the sushi bars with the sushi goes by on the conveyor belt. Only
Yeah,
it's like little cranes. It's little cranes that give you your sushi or something like that. I don't know.
little
Or
tank
drinks.
Zillas that deliver your drink to your table on a little track or something.
Yes, little tankzillas. Yes.
It's an SPBT, a modular. Wait, what is it? Self-propelled beverage transporter.
Modular.
SPBT, self-propelled beverage
There you go.
transporter. SPBT.
Yes, I'm on board. I'm fully on board and ready to invest.
Let's grab some more questions here. Remember, if you ask us a question, we can certainly talk about it for a long time. I'm going to try to see if we can find some new questions because a lot of the questions are
Yeah.
the same ones we get. Do we have any information on why the static fire was aborted yesterday? I mean, we stood by for 7, almost 8 hours, and we saw some tank farm activity, but we never saw a static fire. Of course, SpaceX doesn't tell us exactly what happened, but did we observe anything that we might be able to guess based on?
Just
Not
that it was
not that I
short,
know,
right?
no. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this is
Yeah,
one of the
and
tricks here. Go ahead, Jack. Yeah.
oh, I was just gonna make a stupid joke and say the Starship food that was delivered was not to SN9's liking. It was like, I ordered mint chocolate chip, meh, and then it was aborted.
Mint chocolate chip locks. Nice.
But
So
yesterday in our coverage when Starhopper activated at night, I was like, here comes the talk. Like
the talk. So again, it's the nature of these tests. SpaceX they don't even give us T0s. They don't announce on Twitter or anything like that or put out a press release. Here's what we're doing today and here's the exact time. It's just a window that they can test within. And we don't always get the results of the test. Sometimes Elon will throw us a bone via Twitter and just say, oh, yeah, here's what happened or whatever. But I haven't seen that yet. It's always possible that a tweet has gone through that I haven't seen yet, but I haven't seen anything, specific information on that test yesterday. So let's see here. I'm going to try to grab some stuff that we can actually answer. Let's see. Okay, here's a good one. So we're looking at Starship SN9 on a stand right now, but this is a different stand. Last time when we saw SN8 fly, it was a stand that was a little bit more over on the right-hand side of this view. And the question is, can Starship SN9 launch from this stand, or do they need to bring the big crane back and then move Starship over to another stand?
I
It can
think
totally launch
we're
from this.
expecting it to launch. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I should have called on somebody for that one.
Yeah, no, it can launch. So these are their two suborbital pads. So they can launch from both of them. And in some regards, they're also designed to be able to process two of them at the same time for when the testing rate gets to that point. Someone asked if there was a possibility. They had taken an image after SN9, and one of the aerial images actually after SN9 was moved out to the pad, and they copy and pasted it, photoshopped it so that it was on both of the pads, and asked Elon, "Is this a scene, two starships on both pads that we could see sometime soon?" And his response was yes. So, um, very possible we could see two of them out there at some point.
So, do we think? I mean, certainly they wouldn't hold back the flight of SN9 just to get SN10 out there for a photo op. I mean, we know that
Right.
SN10 is coming along. Looking over back on the robot, this is inside the high bay, and SN10 is stacked inside the high bay right now. In fact, if I do this, we can get two starships on the screen at the same time. So, Elon, there you go, done. All right, two starships in the same stream at the same time. But certainly they wouldn't delay the launch of SN9 to get SN10 out there just to do a photo op. Maybe the only chance for that happening is SN9 sticks the landing, and before they move SN9 out, they bring SN10 out there. And you got one on the landing pad and one on the launch pad. You think that might be something they would do if it sticks the landing?
Yes, yeah, because I think this is about testing as rapidly as you can, right, and getting as much flight data as you can as quickly as you can. If SN9, and to be fair, the question that was asked of Elon is, will we see this with SN9 and SN10? That wasn't the question. It was, will we ever see this?
Right.
Or will we see this soon? And the answer was yes. So it might not be the 910, even if 9 sticks the landing. They might not put it back on the launch pad. Right. They might want to, if with the first one they get back, they might really want to take apart, right, and inspect.
Yep.
So it might be 10, 11, but the larger takeaway from that is this is rapidly heading toward a testing a testing cadence where they not only need both pads, but they're going to have to start getting comfortable with launching one while another and landing one while another one is right there.
Yeah, that makes sense. The other thing I was sort of thinking, we saw that they moved the big Tankzilla crane away from the launch site. We sort of guessed that, all right, they moved that away in case something happens. They don't want the rocket to crash on top of that crane. So they moved it away. But if SN9 does stick the landing, they're probably going to have to send that crane back out there to pick it up and put it on a transporter or something along those lines. So at that time, if SN10 is ready, maybe the crane rolls out, maybe SN10 rolls out, and while the crane's picking up SN9 and putting it on a transporter to send back, maybe the crane also takes SN10 and puts it on a stand. I mean, who knows how you juggle these things around? It'll certainly be interesting to see what happens. And a lot of what I'm saying, they're hinging on SN9 doing its flight and actually landing instead of being in a bunch of little small, or not so small pieces on the launch pad, landing pad.
Largish pieces, relatively
Largish,
big piece.
slightly starship shaped still.
The nose was.
You're right. We saw it there for a while until that excavator got into a fight with it and eventually won.
which was a shame, right? Because we sort of thought that it might be preserved, based on an Elon tweet, which is why I like to caution You know, if Elon tweets it, there's a good chance it'll happen. Sometimes it's just a tweet though. Like we thought the nose cone was going to be preserved and got flattened by that excavator pretty unceremoniously. But I mean, it is what it is. It's scrap ultimately.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, and you know, I think that's a good point, right? That you know, I always struggle in my head to remember when we're talking about this, but you know, this is a test campaign, so all of those things that were said, right, might be are likely very true right this moment, but they might not be true in a week because
right.
the
Oh yeah,
design will have moved on.
yeah. I
You
mean,
The
know, so
design, yeah.
Elon very well could have gone to somebody and said, "Hey, can we keep this around?" And they say, "But where do we put it?" And he's like, "All right, screw it. Like, we're not available to those deliberations or whatever." But I did notice as I was coming in and in Mary's recent daily videos that SN6 is going away. I mean, there's barely just the thrust section of SN6 left on the
mhm.
stand. So, I mean, I wonder if they're going to keep SN5 around or if they're going to start scrapping SN5 as well. I mean, at a certain point, they need the room. I mean, they have so many starships coming online with 10, 11, 12, etc. I mean, they need the room. So
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. They are starting to back up over there. They need to start flying these things, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's no SN6 in the Boca Chica skyline right now. It's gone.
Mhm.
Oh, you're right. Look at that. I'll hop back over here. You're
yeah, like
right.
I said, as I was driving in, you can see it's just barely the thrust section left, and I'm sure that's not long for this world. So RIP SN6, you did good. You did good, buddy.
Yeah. Jeez. All right. Well, let me see if I can continue to grab some questions here. Again, y'all, we're just doing the live show. We're literally just hanging out today, answering questions, talking about things. Also, I did note some people saying, "Oh, the aspect ratio on Jack's camera." Jack, don't sweat that. We'll dial that in offline at some point. Don't try to troubleshoot that right now. We'll do that later. But I do see the little black bars on the top and bottom of Jack's camera. We got
I
a
think
different camera for Jack out there. So
I think I already know what it is too. I'm pretty sure I set it to DCI 4K and not UHD 4K, and it's different. It's slightly different pixel amounts, and different aspect ratio. I don't know if that would do it or not, but yes, we can fix it. It's no big deal.
yeah, in fact, I already did fix it on this scene where yours is the only camera. I just cropped out the black bars, and so this is your camera with the sides cropped a little bit, so the black bars don't show up. So I just didn't fix it on the side by sides where you notice it there. So, um, let me grab some more questions here and see what we could do. This is something that we get quite a bit, Sean Alexander, asking, can we make the NSF weekly into a podcast, the NSF live thing into a podcast, like audio only? And it's honestly just a bandwidth, like a getting the crew to do this every week. Certainly we could extract the audio and get it uploaded to podcast sites and that sort of stuff. I've gotten quite a few people saying that would be a great idea. And a lot of people to say, you know, a lot of times I don't even watch the videos. I just sort of listen into your commentary podcast style. So that's something that we've got a lot of people. It's just we have so many things going on. It's something that may be a good idea. We just don't have the bandwidth to put against it right now. So
It's on my list. It's on my list of things that I really want to start doing this year. I mean, I've talked about it before a little bit. Yes, needs to happen. Good idea. Will happen. Matter of time and bandwidth.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Here's one. I mean, again, this is a question we've heard, so let's answer this one pretty quickly. But what will the future Starship flight profile tests and max height be? Chris, do you want to talk about that for just a second? We get that a lot. I don't want to miss that one. But
Yeah.
what do we know? Nothing,
So
really.
really, yeah, kind of nothing. In a lot of ways, we do know that SN9, the one here, while we don't know exactly what day this week it will fly, but with a static fire aiming for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all options within there for this potential flight, but no date yet for that. But we do know that it will seek to reproduce what SN8 did. So it'll go to 12.5 kilometers, belly flop back down, reignite the Raptor engines to do the flip and burn. And with the methane header tank now pressurized with helium as the interim step to make sure that that tank maintains pressure on the flip and burn. basically SN9 is seeking to succeed in those final few moments where SN8 encountered a problem, and to also demonstrate again that it can perform the same flight pattern and replicate it, as SN8 did. So that's the big one. We might see slight increases there. They might go for slightly higher altitudes. We'll probably see test campaigns that start pushing the engines at different power levels, stressing the vehicle in different ways through the denser lower atmosphere. And things like that. We know they want to do 20-kilometer hops as well, maybe even higher than that. We know, if you can, with the balance, we know they want to start doing some more high speed tests as well. So it'll just be a matter of how they balance what they want in each test that will then determine the flight profiles. Really,
Yeah.
Couple things. One, the flip and burn, like flip and apostrophe burn. Flip and burn needs to be like a cocktail or of some kind that you set on fire at the high bar. Like that just it
yes.
has to be. That's a great name, and it needs to be, or like a shot that's like lit on fire before you consume it, or whatever. Second thing, so there, according to that FAA document that I love to harp on, or one of them anyways, there was supposed to be basically three phases of this test campaign: low altitude hops, medium altitude hops, and high altitude hops. And we're currently in that medium altitude hops phase. So and another data point from that same document, I think they can go up to 30 kilometers before they start um, getting into the territory of breaking the sound barrier. And I don't know if that's on the way up or on the way down, but point
Mhm.
being, I could see other hops or flights that are higher than 12.5 kilometers, but lower than say 30 or around 30 as part of the medium altitude campaign. And then at a certain point, they'll move on to the high altitude campaign, which would presumably be like, you know, um, much higher, sort of like Virgin Galactic or New Shepard style. Like it actually goes into quote unquote space. It passes the Kármán line, but doesn't actually orbit. And I'm not quite sure what to expect for that high altitude flight campaign. But right now we are in the medium altitude portion, and I think at a certain point there was supposed to be a lot more in the low altitude portion, but they
Yeah.
did so well with 5 and 6, right? That they didn't need to keep doing 150-meter hops. So very well could be that the medium altitude portion that we're in right now doesn't even last that long if they get the data they need to get. And they certainly got a whole bunch with SN8. So if 9 sticks the landing, if 10 sticks the landing, maybe that's enough to move on to high altitude.
It might be, and the high altitude one triggered a memory that at some point the test campaign also involved the Starship flying itself downrange to those higher altitudes, turning around and firing the engines to increase its velocity to start testing heat shield and hypersonic reentries, and everything. So that could be part of the pending high altitude test campaign as
Yeah,
well. And
yeah, that's
and I think
exciting.
it
That's sort
really
of one of
is.
the
Yeah.
things I'm really looking forward to this year is seeing more heat shield development, right? Because if Starship's going to go orbital, or Starship's going to start going at these speeds more closely approaching orbital velocity, then we're going to need to start seeing heat shield development rapidly progress here. And you can see there on SN9 that we're looking at right now on its belly. I think we're looking at it right now. My feed might not have been updated, but yeah, um, we're looking at a big patch of heat shield tiles. So
Yeah.
all guesses are, do you think SN10 will roll out with a bunch more tiles on it than even SN9? I hope so, because that's to me that's important progress that we need to see. And there is your short answer, Das, to a good question.
Well,
I
and
wasn't
I
looking
actually
to
want to
say
add one
anything.
more. I actually wanted to add one more thing to that because it's a really good question. No, but some of those high altitude flights too might include a fully fueled super heavy, right, that has a Starship on top of it, so that they can start testing the super heavy turning around and flying itself back for landing, and use the Starship for additional, high velocity orbital speed, but on a suborbital trajectory, you know, entry profile back down. I mean, we know there's another drone ship coming that they keep talking about. There's speculation it's for Starship. maybe we're going to be surprised, and there's going to be part of the high altitude test campaign that involves launching these things from Brownsville out along that corridor that threads you through Florida and Cuba, and seek to catch the Starship portion of it downrange to test high altitude entries, and then flip that super heavy around and send it back to Boca.
Yeah.
You started talking about that, and I immediately started grinning because the idea of seeing a super heavy return to launch site from South Padre Island or from the area around Boca Chica, I mean, mind blowing. No other word for it other than that is going to be mind blowing.
Yeah, that's going to be
Yeah.
absolutely insane.
When we see
Ah.
something that big just falling from the sky, it's gonna be intense.
Let me let's see here. I'm gonna grab some more super chats really quickly because we're 23 minutes behind on that. And this is how it goes. Every time we do an NSF live, anytime we do any sort of stream, somebody asks questions, then we wax poetic about it for 10 or 15 minutes. So we will try to get to as many questions as we can, but that's sort of how we do. If people don't like us waxing poetic about simple questions, or that's not really a simple question, well, that's what we do around here. That's sort of how our streams go every single time. So let me grab the super chats here. D with some numbers. 1074 says, what's the word on another static fire today or tomorrow? So there is no potential for a static fire today. There is not anything planned like that. There's no road closures or anything. But we believe tomorrow is Sunday. There's nothing for tomorrow either. It's Monday that would be the earliest date for the static fire. Did I get that correct? It changes so often.
You got it correct, yes.
All right. So no static fire today or tomorrow that we're aware of. Plan's always fluid, but based on road closures, we're thinking no earlier than Monday for the static fire, and then the flight to follow after that based on how that static fire actually goes. Thanks for the $5 there, D1047 times 2. David Nagy says, when you're a content creator, replicas are cinematic, play realism overhaul. MechJeb is a gift from God. Nice, David.
I agree with
Yes.
that. I really want to agree with that. When you play in real solar system and realism overhaul, yeah,
See,
you need
the
McJeb to
problem.
get you to orbit. Like, I
The
just
problem, Chris, the problem is, are you really playing Realism Overhaul with MechJeb? I would say you're not. If you're not writing your own flight control software in KOS, you're not actually playing Realism Overhaul. Just
well,
saying.
I'm not saying I'm not learning that, but I'm also saying that I don't have the patience to sit there and get a script totally perfectly
Get the
sometimes.
script totally perfect. One day I'm gonna have to actually use that to program some flight control software. We appreciate the support there, David. Thank you for the $4.99.
Moldy Space Food Industries is teaching me, or whatever the name. I'm sorry, I totally botched that name and
Moldy Space
added.
Food Industries.
Yeah, Moldy Space Food. Oh man, my mind flashed to moldy mouse food. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about has been assisting me in learning how to write scripts with some of the ones that they have written, because I'm a much more visual learner than I am trial and error.
Excellent. I'm just randomly switching around camera views here. Stuff going on in the high bay. Here's the view from the beach of SN9. I mean, at some point, now it's still raining. There's still a bit of rain between the long range camera and the beach in Boca Chica, but I'm just sort of switching around. Doug Hunt is a new member. Welcome to the crew, Doug. We appreciate the support. Here's Mike Lutke saying, let's see. Hopefully by the end of the year, they'll be launching the first Starship to orbit. What do you guys imagine your live stream of this event would be like? A high bar Jack cam. Yeah, right? Oh, if SpaceX let Jack be on the high bar, or Mary or someone, anybody, a robot, I don't even care, be on the top of the high bay, I guarantee you that would be a fantastic camera view. We're just going to go ahead.
Because of Elon's tweets today, and because he was talking about the high bar again, as I was driving in today, I was just looking at it and thinking, man, what a view that would be for a launch. I mean, it would be absolutely insane, and it would look and feel like you see launch site scenes in movies. It would feel like that to see a vehicle that big launch from that close and from an elevated position. It would just feel like you were in the middle of a science fiction movie. And seeing SN10 in the high bay too, it's increasingly starting to feel like that, which is so cool.
Yeah, it really is. And Michael is continuing to look around at what they're doing in the high bay. There's a crane up near the top of SN10 and not exactly sure what they're working on right now, but I just see the camera panning around, so I hop to it on occasion. We're so far behind in super chats. Let me grab a couple more. Alex Prosser says, leaving tomorrow from central New York. So you're going all the way down from New York. Totally, 2-day drive is totally worth it. Go SN9, trying to make it down to see the hop. Alex, be safe out there. Drive safe for sure. But good luck. That is a significant drive. And just be prepared to stay there for a little bit longer than anticipated if the hop moves towards the middle or the end of the week. Let's see here. Rough Rider Show says, maybe a question for Michael. Which boosters are flying Transporter 1 and Starlink L16? Michael, do we have information on that? Those are non-Starship flights, Transporter 1 and Starlink 16.
Yeah, it's either going to be for Transporter 1, it's going to be B1058, B1049, and B1051. For Starlink L16, it would be between the same three. I do not know which of those three it will be for each launch yet.
Gotcha.
There have been some reports for the booster for Transporter 1. I have not seen the same information, so I cannot add my own input to them.
Gotcha. All right. Rough Riders, appreciate the $5 there. I'm going to try to keep speed running these because here's one we needed to get to. It's 21 minutes old at this point. Harry Young jumping through with the 50 euros saying, oh, look, a nice round of resub button. Every month was well spent. Keep up the good work. Harry is one of our longtime supporters all the way back to the very beginning, and not just a longtime supporter, but large supporter. Harry, thank you so much for everything you do to continue us on, including the 50 euros there that we can turn back around and turn into new technology and data for modems and all the different stuff that allows us to continue all this really cool coverage. So give it somebody put a round of applause. I don't know what applause is. Applause in a chat for Harry there. We appreciate you, Harry.
I don't know what it is, but we're going to have to figure it out because Harry is awesome and deserves it. Thank you so much, Harry.
It's like supplemental applause. It's like when the first applause was not enough, you have to add some supplause. I made that up. I
can't believe I just laughed. I can't believe I laughed at that. I'm ashamed.
You're ashamed.
Seriously, thank you, Harry. And if you would do me the favor, DOS, of cutting away from me for a second, the rain has ceased, so I'm going to reset my camera.
All right, your camera's clear, and just let me know when you're back.
Okay.
Let's see here. Maxim Coma says, what if the bar on top is for another high bay they're going to build to increase Starship productions? Have we seen any indication out there that they are working on the footings for another high bay or anything along those lines? Or is it pretty much the high bay is the high bay right now? We're pretty sure this is the high bay they're putting a bar on top of if Elon gets his way with that.
That's my understanding. I think a large part of the expansion of Boca isn't necessarily more high bays to stack more just yet, but the test campaign and the bottleneck, right? Like another high bay wouldn't really be helping them right now. For what they need. I think it's this one. This one.
And I just
again, if stuff keeps going and increasing and more orbital pads and more suborbital test pads and stuff, come up and they're allowed to build them, then maybe in the future there'll be high bar 1 and high bar 2.
Nice. A little bridge between them or a zip line maybe.
Oh, a zip line. I like that.
And I just, on a whim, I brought up this scene, which has two robotic views. One is the long-range robot over at the hotel at South Padre, and the other one is the robot in Boca Chica Village. Both views looking at the high bay there. And the rest of the production site, you can see Tankzilla and stuff like that over there on the long-range robot. But just on a whim, I flipped over that way.
And I have news.
Uh-oh.
The temporary flight restrictions for Starship SN9's test flight have just updated. The new no earlier than launch date for Starship SN9 is Tuesday, with backup opportunities available on Wednesday and Thursday. So again, Starship SN9's test flight is now no earlier than Tuesday, January 12th, per the latest flight restrictions, with backup opportunities on Wednesday and Thursday.
Aha. And that sort of
Awesome.
fits with a static fire Monday, then all goes well, the first potential flight on Tuesday, right?
Correct.
All right. Good deal. That's from the official paperwork, the TFRs, the temporary flight restrictions that keep the skies clear of aircraft for safety purposes when they actually fly SN9. So, alrighty. Let's see here. I'm gonna get a couple more super chats in. Future Martian, thanks for the $20, and thanks for not putting any text for me to read in so that we talk about it for 5 minutes. We appreciate the $20 there from Future Martian 97. Tennessee Ferry has $9.99, but this says off topic from Starship. What do the F9 fairing halves weigh, and what's the catching process? We've talked a little bit about that in the past, and we don't, I guess, have the catching process online. We have the offloading process, some video on FleetCam, but
Yeah,
do we know what they weigh,
so the
Chris?
so the catching process. So after I do not know off the top of my head what each half's mass is, or what the total mass is, because one side is active, one side is passive, so they're not exactly the same. But in terms of the catching process, so after they separate from the Falcon 9 or the Falcon Heavy, um, they continue to coast up to their own apogee, and then they gently start re-entering the atmosphere, and they pop a parafoil very early. So it takes about 45 minutes from liftoff until they're either splashing down or the fairing catcher ships are underneath them for a catch. Whereas the Falcon 9 booster does lift off to touchdown on a drone ship in about 8.5 minutes. So it's a much slower process, and during that, the fairing halves and their transponders are pinging, saying, "Here I am, here I am, here I am," and those are being sent back throughout SpaceX, and then the boats are trying to drive. Mystery and Mischief are trying to drive themselves underneath where their respective fairing half that they're trying to catch
Yep.
is, and then if they can get directly underneath them, they harmlessly come down into the net. And if they should happen to miss them, they still harmlessly splash down into the Atlantic or the Pacific, where they are hauled out of the water and refurbished for reuse.
Gotcha. All right. And then we've sort of seen the last part of that process where they come back into port. In fact, we should be expecting two fairings coming back in the next day or so from that previous launch, right?
We should indeed, which were, and both halves were reused, as a matter of fact, from previous flights on that one. So, yeah, the one that just launched here with Turksat 5A, one half of the payload fairing was used on Anasis 2, and the other was used on another flight earlier in the year that I'm blanking on right now. Did the GPS 3 mission from last year. So they're coming back to be reused again.
Good deal. So be looking over on our fleet cam. We have that live 24/7 camera at Port Canaveral where we watch the boosters come back in, the SpaceX operations, all the testing and work that they do there at the port to actually recover and reuse these rockets. When they come in, you'll be able to see those over on our fleet cam channel here on the same NASA Spaceflight YouTube, the overarching channel. I don't know. It's the fleet cam stream on the NASA Spaceflight YouTube channel, I guess is the right way to say that, but whatever. Let's see here. So Wiggle does 5 curly L's. Appreciate the £5 there, Wiggle, and says if these current flights are to prove the landing technique, how much further can they push the envelope without super heavy? So I guess the question is, how high could Starship go on its own, or do you get to a point where you just can't get any more testing done because you have to have a super heavy to loft it even further? I'm going to go out on a limb and say they could do all the testing they need to do with Starship alone, because we've heard that Starship should have just enough energy to basically make orbit on its own. So if they need to fly a Starship to 100 kilometers, no big deal. It could hop to 100 kilometers. If it can almost make orbit on its own with no payload and not enough fuel to come back, it could certainly hop to 100 kilometers or whatever, right? But there may come to a point, like you're going to get to a point where you need a Starship to go all the way into orbit so that you can test the reentry and so that you can test the flip after coming down from a reentry, right? And I think that's going to be where you have to have a super heavy booster. Once you get to the point where, look at this thing's doing the belly flop, fantastic. It hopped to 200 kilometers. I don't even know how high they would hop it before they try to go orbital, and it's controllable. We've worked out all these systems. We're ready to put one of these into orbit and then bring it all the way back down home again. I think that's where that point is going to sort of flip over. You think so, Chris?
Yeah, because there's a lot they can do with hypersonic reentry testing, with just the Starship itself. So yeah, the inflection point is going to be when they need it to get orbital, um, to test it out up there.
Yeah,
And
I
and
agree
and
with that.
that's a very important part of before you go orbital, you kinda wanna make sure you know how your heat shield's gonna hold up. So what Jack just zoomed in on there, those heat shield tiles that will cover the ventral side of, I'm sorry, the dorsal side, no, wait, the whatever
That would be
side
the
the belly
ventral side. The belly is the ventral
ventral,
side.
thank you,
Yeah, the
yes,
dorsal fin on the shark is the top.
yes, and then I thought ventral fin for some reason and freaked my mind out. Anyway, you're gonna wanna make sure that you've tested your heat shield as much as possible, before, you get to those orbital things, because this is a very different heat shield design than Dragon uses. It's exposed during liftoff, it's exposed the whole time, right? So there's some good testing they wanna do there too that they can do with just the Starship.
Yeah. All right. The more I try to read super chats, the more behind I get in super chats. So I'm going to get a couple more here, and then we'll let them marinate for a while. Kenny Alexander says, "Is transpiration cooling still going to be a thing for Starship, or has that been scrapped?" My understanding is the last we heard from Elon is they're no longer trying to do transpirational cooling. They're going with the more traditional heat tiles. Do I have that right, Chris?
Correct. That's the last I heard as well. Not ruled out as a potential future advancement to Starship, but not going to be the one they head toward first. And a lot of that transpirational cooling was when the original idea was that you didn't need any heat shield whatsoever because you could polish everything so much and make it so reflective that it would do most of the work of that for you. And also, the material that they've chosen to build has a very high melting point, which is very, very good, which is partly why we don't need a heat shield on the dorsal side,
Yep.
of the vehicle. Whereas past vehicles of this design still needed some type of heat shield, be they blankets or thermal cords or things like that, on their dorsal sides. But I think one thing that Elon has always said is that the best engineered design is the simplest engineered design. And the simplest engineered design is heat shield over transpirational cooling, because your heat shield is suddenly going to go, no flow, and stop working on you. Right. Whereas
Right.
if you're banking on transpirational cooling to make sure you don't burn up during atmospheric reentry and a pump goes down, oh, you
Yeah.
don't, it's just removing risk and complexity as much as you can, especially when it's not inherently necessary to the overall design at this point.
Right. Gotcha. All right, I'm going to get one more here, then we'll let them marinate for a while. Noobmaster says, recently delivered engine SN45. We think that's for SN9 or SN10?
I believe that would be for SN10, because I believe 9 already has all of its Raptors. So unless they're planning to swap one out, I believe it has all of them at this point.
Gotcha. Jack, do we still have you on comms out there? We may be missing Jack right now.
Yep, I'm just muted.
Ah, there he is.
I was trying to not go on a long diatribe about various super chat answers so we could get through them.
Well, I
Oh, that's what I
appreciate
was
that.
doing.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through as many of them as I can, and then we have regular questions as well. So I'm gonna hop back over to the non-super chat questions for a bit here. Again, y'all, we appreciate all the questions, all the cool things, people chatting and chat and that sort of stuff. There's no way that we can read out every single one on the stream, but we appreciate everybody who shows up to these things and participates and asks questions and all that sort of stuff. So let me see here. Just scrolling through, I thought I had one. I mean, there's so many questions that we just don't have the answer to. Like this one from Space Raptor saying, which SN will be the first to orbit? Like we could certainly guess, and then we could talk for 10 minutes about, oh well, why guess this because of this and that sort of stuff. But right now, Space Raptor, no one can tell you what the first SN to be in orbit will be. Like actually make it to orbit. I mean, we sort of see this, and right now we're hoping we get to see SN9 do a flight to 12 kilometers this week. I can't tell you which one's going to make it to orbit first. Let me grab another one here. Question. This is DWDJR6, and they asked, the Falcon 9 steers itself to the landing site via grid fins and the cold gas jets. We've seen that quite often. The Falcon 9 makes a regular habit of those sorts of flights. What was steering SN8 back to the landing site from 41,000 feet? I think the answer with that was the flaps, right?
The flaps, yeah. It's the sheer aerodynamic weight of those flaps. And I mean, we did see the cold gas thrusters firing for orientation when it was higher, like at apogee before it started to fall. But it was primarily the aero surfaces on it.
Yeah.
And that
In
was the big that was the big thing, right? Of everyone going like, okay, if the Raptors do well and it makes it to apogee, the failure point where this is going to go wrong is the belly flop
right.
maneuver, right? Just one of the insane things that had never been done with a vehicle like this before, and it worked.
Yeah, that was
I mean,
definitely the critical step, was maintaining control of that huge, massive starship during the belly flop, getting the engines lit, turning them so that they use their thrust vectoring to get the flip going, and then turning them the other way to get the flip stopped. I mean,
mhm.
that was a huge thing for them to accomplish, and SN8 did it without a hitch, like you said.
Yeah, and that was the huge win. I mean, that was really the huge win, as was the reignition of the Raptors and seeing the flip maneuver. I
Yep.
mean, once I saw it, I was like, ah, okay, like I get it now, because like the visualization and the animation were just insane to me. But I think we do have another question somewhere in our queue, and apologies, I can't find it like right this second through the scroll. But someone was asking a question about those aero surfaces as well. Um, and the question was basically something along the lines of, do you think they would ever intentionally perform a test where they basically break one of them on purpose to see, could they maintain stability if one of them failed and got locked? Because remember that booster landing that you were down here for, DOS, of the
Yep.
Falcon 9, where the grid
Yep.
fins got stuck? And somehow that vehicle was still able to overcome that. and
Yeah.
and right itself. The question was basically, do we think they'd ever test something like that with Starship on purpose? I think that's a really good question. They have not specifically said if any of these tests are going to be purposefully designed to throw failures at the vehicle to see how it does. Although, based on how this vehicle works, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to test. I mean, because you really need to know, if you go to relight two Raptor engines for the landing burn and one of them has a start failure, can you instantly throttle that other one to
Right.
compensate?
Yep.
Right? Like, those might be things that we'll start to see them test. Again, no guarantee they will, but it wouldn't be bad, based on this vehicle really needs to be as solidly reliable as airplanes are because of how it comes back and lands. There's no margin for error with
Yep.
this.
Gah. All right, and that's I mean, we know that that's sort of one of the things. Like, when they start doing point to point, are they going to fly people? Are they going to fly cargo? There's a long way before we get there, but just seeing SN9 actually do the flight and stick the landing, that's sort of the next step we want to get to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh,
Exactly.
let's see here. I was, Chris, while you were talking, I was trying to scroll through and I couldn't actually find that question because I was trying to find it for us.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad when I read it, I'm glad I committed it to memory, because I was like, "Oh, that's a really good question."
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Here's one that's sort of a long range question. Do you think SpaceX will at some point in the future attempt 2 Starship flights in one window? Thanks, y'all, and thank you, Mary. So 2 flights in one day, 2 flights in 8
Mhm.
hours?
I think the overriding answer to that is yes. We will get to a point in the testing sequence where they will do this. And I would say this is how it will happen. It won't be two different Starship vehicles. It could, but their goal is to design the system so the Super Heavy and Starship can each be used 3 times a day.
Right.
Well, you want to get one back, pick that thing up immediately, stick it back on top of another Super Heavy and go. Or if you are not trying to do the Super Heavy, but trying to do the rapid reuse testing, just take a Starship. What we're looking at right now, launch it from one suborbital pad, land it, grab it with the crane, stick it on the other one, fuel it back up, reignite, and go. I think that's what we'll end up seeing because of the cadence they really want to use these for. But I also think they'll want to at some point also test the teams who will be operating these vehicles, because when you start getting into the need to do orbital refueling, you might want to have that other one ready to go so that when the first one you've launched comes back by the launch site 90 minutes later in a way that you can phase to properly and launch, that you can do that rapid sequence back to back launch, which we have done in the US before in the Gemini program, but we haven't done in a long time.
Yeah, I just saw Jack had zoomed in a lot here, so I switched back over to Jack's camera real quick. You can actually see people working down at the base of SN9 right now.
Look at that.
So I do think, I mean, to sort of close out that previous thought, I think we're a long way from seeing to start like the rest of the infrastructure to have a Starship land and then get picked up and then put on top of another booster. I don't think that happens with the big crane. I think they're probably going to have some more infrastructure out there in place before they could turn something around really quickly, you know? But I think at some point we'll get to that point. I think we're going to see a lot more infrastructure built out at Boca Chica before they try tests along those lines, you know? So certainly going to be interesting as we sort of work towards that. And hey, more content for us to stream. I'm okay with it. Let's see
Right.
here.
There's actually a good one I'd like to take
Yeah,
now,
go.
actually. And it's one that just came in. It's from Nemadic, asking, so it starts with speculation time. What do you hope or think a Starship Block 2 would upgrade? Um,
Hmm.
and so we kind of have the answer to this, right, in terms of the scaling up of the system that they want to do, right? That's one of the proposals for what a future element of Starship would do. I don't really know how to answer that question personally, which seems odd because I wanted to take it and wanted to answer it, because we don't really know where the first design is going to ultimately settle. Right. There's still a lot that they need to get a lot of data for. Right. As successful as everything has been so far, there's a long way to go, before even the first version is ready for operational use.
Right.
And I think that would help really determine this. But the reason I wanted to take the question is because I think this, while it's a great question, and I would love for starships to, have updated Raptor engines and start to try to push the boundary of how quickly can we get people to certain locations throughout the solar system. I would love for systems to start testing that, right? But I think the trap that large vehicles that are trying to be designed for multiple reasons, the trap that people fall into is before you finish the design of it, you're already going, "Oh, okay, well, how can we improve it?
Right.
Well, how can we improve it? Well, how can we improve it?" Which isn't necessarily on the surface a bad question, because I'm sure SpaceX is thinking about this, but it might be 0.5% of Starship
Right.
right now. Whereas look at the trouble that SLS is in, right? SLS was a rocket that began from the first part by saying, well, the rocket that we really want is not feasible right now. So we're going to do this interim one, and we're going to spend money developing it, but we're also going to spend money in parallel developing the other thing, which never comes to fruition, but money is diverted from it. And this is where rockets get into trouble, right? When you start trying to improve them before you've actually built them and upgrade them. And that's where the temptation to spend money on the upgrade before you finish the real thing can bite you in the end. So
Right.
it's a good question, and it's something that I'm sure SpaceX is working on. But I think as an industry, that's where the industry gets itself in trouble sometimes.
Right. In along the same lines, it's sometimes you're still developing this, right? So if you come through and you fly it and you figure out during the belly hop, oh, we need to change the pressure in the header tank so that we can relight the engines and we get a good landing burn or whatever,
Right.
right? That's not really pulling the rug out from under anything and doing it all from scratch again. That's fixing one problem you identified during testing. And so I think we're still very firmly within the realm of Starship where it's test it out, make changes based on our testing, put it back out there again, put the next one out there again, whatever. And we're not really into, all right, Starship is flying perfectly. What can we do to improve it? Because the improvements happen in real time, like as they're building the actual starships right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know that even just like logistically, the way you talk about it, you would be saying, okay, well, it's block 2, block 3, et cetera, because we're still working on dialing in the Starship proper, like the first Starship, you know?
Right, and it's like, they needed the experience of Falcon 1 first, right? They
Right.
needed the version 1 of Falcon 9 first,
Right.
right, before they could then start doing the block upgrades to the 3s and the 4s to ultimately get you to the 5s, right? And yeah.
I gotta look at this real quick. Michael's playing with the robot. Michael, I'm switching to the robot. Look at the view of the crane there. That crane is so big. It's just a massive crane. That's over
It's
near the
and it
crane
makes
shed, I
Starship
guess.
look small out there just above my name.
Oh yeah, that's right. And we can see there's a couple of drops on the lens there too, from the rain showers that came through. But that's just it's just a big crane. Michael, could you zoom it out just a hair so we can get a little bit more ground? The lower thirds get in the bottom of it a little bit. I'm trying to see. Look at the latency on the robot right now. Yay! It's actually pretty fast. So, anyways, I just saw that pop on one of my feed monitors there. Look at that. You can really see that raindrop now. So let's see here. Gonna grab a couple more super chats here, and then we will go on with some more questions. And y'all, I'm just trying to come up with a balance. You know, we ask them. We don't ever want to be in a situation where, oh, in order to get a question answered, you have to do a super chat. Like that's not how we want to be. So we do try to balance it one way and the other. But let me grab a couple more super chats here. And this one's from Crazy Dave 911 saying, I heard the test yesterday was called for range violation. Campers at the beach. I know that yesterday we saw some fish and wildlife people, or there was another sort of truck that wasn't the normal constable that came up to the checkpoint, and then people were over there looking around or something like that. But we didn't get any official word on that's what they did or what they didn't do. Um, I don't know. It's just one of those things where SpaceX doesn't officially say here is what happened, right? So we did sort of notice some things like that, but without an official word from SpaceX, we don't want to speculate and say, "Oh, well, actually, yeah, that's what happened," because you can't do anything other than just guess, right? Because we're an official, like an actual news source. We try not to make guesses at stuff like that, where it's like, "Yeah, that's the news. That's what we're reporting," when we don't have official confirmation of it. But thank you for the $10 there, Crazy Dave. And we've got John Halsey saying, "Could you make a montage of 2020 launches?" We did have that Starship year in review. I'm not like leaking a video that we're not done with yet, are we? Did we
It's
publish
No,
it?
we
published.
released it. Yeah.
Okay, good. We released that.
We released it. Yeah.
I said it out loud and I was like, wait, gosh, I don't remember if we actually published that yet. But we did have a Starship year in review video that we had put out. So I don't know if it's one of the mods or somebody could link that into chat, but that was sort of the montage we made. We didn't take all the other launches, you know, the basic orbital blocking and tackling where it's like Falcon 9 sending some more Starlinks up or something like that. But thanks for the curly L's. Here's one from Dan Hornbeck saying, how many residents or houses are in Boca Chica Village? And I can get that one really quickly. You have to sort of say residents' houses. Do you mean SpaceX employees? Or do you mean how many people still live at Boca Chica that don't work for SpaceX? So I know one of them, Mary Boca Chica Gal, is one of the very few people who still live at Boca Chica and don't work for SpaceX proper. But we know that a lot of the houses around there are now occupied by SpaceX employees and workers and stuff like that. Of course, SpaceX was buying a lot of those out, and a ton of people sold those properties over to SpaceX so that they could, I guess, the people would move out, and then SpaceX either demolished houses if they were in bad shape, or they've converted a couple of them to actual residences where SpaceX people or important people at SpaceX who visit Boca Chica on occasion may stay in the houses. So in terms of exactly how many houses are left, there's still quite a few houses. Residents, there's a lot of Boca Chica residents that are SpaceX employees, but Boca Chica private residents are, it's basically Mary and maybe one or two other people or houses at this point. Johan Trin is a new member. Welcome to the crew, Johan. Thank you very much for the support. We've got Dave Wolf asking any thoughts as to how they may top a Super Heavy in early testing prior to doing it with a Starship. Ah, so a nose cone or something. Chris or I don't Jack, do we still have Jack on comms?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
So the question is, do we think Super Heavy will get a nose cone?
Yes. Have
Like
we seen
for
anything
short.
like that?
No, I don't think so, honestly. I mean, we saw serial number 5 and serial number 6 both launch without any kind of nose cone or anything. So, if it's not going to go super super high up, then it would be not necessary. And if it is, then why not just put a Starship on it? I don't know. I don't really see the need to test a super heavy booster at medium to high altitude, just the booster itself. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe they plan to do that. But what do you think, Chris?
I admittedly had a much different answer before you gave yours, and then my head went, "Ah, that makes sense." Yeah, the only thing I could see is if they did want to do a couple of test flights with it, just to get it up, get it downrange like it normally would, and then flip it back around and test it, like just from the size, right? And just to make sure that everything is working, you might stick an old nose cone on it, or where you would need to for aerodynamic purposes. To stick a nose cone on top of it, but uh, it wouldn't take much to modify it for that.
You know my question there? Did they ever do that with a Falcon 9? Did they
No.
ever fly a Falcon 9 to a super high altitude and then have it do a boost back burn halfway out over the Atlantic? And then when Falcon 9 did that, it just had a payload on top, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Falcon 9 had also already been flying for a long time. They had the launch pads there. It just kind of made sense to wrap the test campaign into your operational flights because everything up until first stage separation was the same. It was only
Yeah.
after stage separation that something went different. Again, this might be something different where they've got the opportunity to do it, so they might want to take it. And there might be different, you know, there might be different considerations with how the Falcon 9 will fly and how the Super Heavy booster would come back. So,
Right.
yeah.
All right. And I think I got one more here because we're 20 minutes behind that. Also, it's 4:24. We'll probably go a couple minutes over if everybody can do that because we did start 5, 6 minutes late at the beginning. But we are coming up
Yeah.
on the hour and a half here for NSF Live. And I've got one thing I'm going to do at the end of the show. I'm going to take time to do it. So, anyways, Ryan Bradley with 250 Curly L said, "How can you tell when the recondenser fires up?" So on the right-hand camera right there, the NSF robot looking over from Boca Chica, you see the 3 tanks that are sort of in the foreground, right? There's Starship, and then go over to the left to Starship, and there's 3 tanks in the foreground. The recondenser, what we call the recondenser, is behind those tanks. So we start to see vapors coming from some equipment behind those 3 tanks from this perspective here. And I'm looking on Jack's camera as well. I don't see anything because there's some dunes on the ground. So it's not like we can see the other side of those right now. But when we see a significant amount of vapor coming from behind those 3 tanks you see in the foreground, the cars are just driving. Look, the white truck right there is in front of the 3 tanks. When we see vapors coming from there, that's what we call the recondenser. That's what we refer to as a recondenser. And that's a really good sign that they're moving towards propellant load operations. A lot of times we start our live stream whenever we see that going because that means they're basically going for it, you know? And then I'm sort of looking, that's like dust or something right now. I'm like, is it going right now? But that looks like work dust or wind blowing or something like that. That doesn't look like actual vapors right now. I got one more here, and it's just a new membership. Mark, thank you so much for the new membership. Joining the NASA spaceflight crew here. Yeah, it looks like Jack is trying to get the other side to see if we can see something else there. But we'll let you get that dialed in, Jack. Then I'll flip back over to your camera. Mark with the new membership. Thank you, Mark. So, do we have one other question? Did you see any other question in the queue that we wanted to make sure we didn't miss?
None that stuck out to me. Like the other one. No.
Yeah. And again, y'all, we get so many questions, and a lot of times we do answer the same question. So instead of spending 10 minutes talking about the same answer that we've talked about on 15 other shows, sometimes if you've asked a question that's sort of not a new question to us, we'll either just do it really quickly or we may not get to it. We do try to choose questions that maybe we haven't seen before. So let me see if I can get anything else. Chris, is there any other space news that we need to
I'm
cover?
pointed at what I think is the recondenser. I think it is. I could be completely wrong, but and there's land in the way, but
Yep, that's it, Jack. You got
roughly.
it.
Look at that.
Yep,
That's the top of the recondenser. We think, right?
that's correct.
Okay. How do we know?
Because that's what it looks like.
Because we know, because you can tell because of the way that it is. It's a recondenser because it's a recondenser. We've seen a schematic of this or something, right? Like we know what it's supposed to look like or something, right, Michael? Help me out.
When it first arrived, Andy or Nomad on the NSF forums got some close-up shots of it, and that's what it looks like.
Ah, that's just what it looks like. So now we know that's the backside of the or that's the recondenser that's normally hidden from our view. Excellent. So Chris, I was sort of tossing it over to you. Other space news. Do we have any launches coming up this week? We have a booster return happening on Fleet Cam in a couple days here, but what else do we need to cover here?
We do. So there's a booster coming back from the Turksat 5A mission that launched earlier this week. But the biggest thing, first and foremost, that we have coming up on Monday night, January 11th, local time here in Florida at 9 p.m., the SpaceX Dragon CRS-21 cargo capsule is coming back from the International Space Station. It will undock on Monday morning and then splash down in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Cape Canaveral Monday night at 9 p.m. local time. So that would be 2 a.m. UTC time on Tuesday the 12th. That is the big
Boo,
one.
Boo Atlantic Ocean splashdown. Boo.
I always
Boo,
get these
ascending
questions
node.
that involve me saying something that Florida has taken from California when Jack is on, and it always
I like
it's
how earlier you very delicately said the area between Cuba and Florida that they can launch instead of saying Southern Polar Corridor. You were very delicate about that. Thank you.
I try to be.
The joke there, for everybody who sort of maybe not know, the joke is for our polar launches that go to really high inclinations that fly over the North and South Pole. Certain sets of satellites want inclined orbits that go over the poles, right? Based on what they're doing. And it used to be that for United States launch capabilities, all polar launches would go out of Vandenberg, which is right in Jack's back door, right? Jack can drive up the road and end up in Vandenberg and watch a launch. But Vandenberg has not been getting a lot of launches, specifically lost the polar launches because they allowed the polar launches to happen from Cape Canaveral. That's sort of a new thing last year, right, Chris?
So
yeah.
it's not just that polar corridor. It's also SpaceX's West Coast recovery ops. I mean, we no longer have what do you call it? A drone ship. We had the original drone ship, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I
Yep.
could be wrong. We no longer have a fairing recovery boat. That they also moved our fairing recovery boat to the East Coast. And yeah, so and Dragon capsules used to land in the Pacific. Now they're all going to land. The last Dragon capsule to land in the Pacific was CRS-20, and that was also the final V1 cargo Dragon. So after that, you guys get all the capsule landings, which enjoy. They are super cool. It's so cool to see a human thing that has been despaced in front of your face. I mean, you know that.
It is.
Anyways, I'll shut up.
Yes,
Right.
so we have that on Monday, and then Virgin Orbit will attempt the second flight of Launcher One and the first one that will hopefully reach orbit. It has an assortment of satellites from NASA on board. That one will be no earlier than the 13th. And then on the 14th, we have a Starlink launch out of here as well. So a busy
17th, not the 14th.
17th. Sorry, on the 17th we have Starlink. So yeah, a busy week, and of course that doesn't include what will happen with the glorious SN9 seated in front of us right now.
Yeah, and we'll stay tuned on SN9 for sure. A static fire no earlier than Monday, and based on the TFRs, hop no earlier than Tuesday of this upcoming week. But definitely make sure you follow the channel here, because when those events happen, we will certainly go live. Whether you follow us on Twitter at NASASpaceflight on Twitter, you'll see some tweets or notifications come out there. You can turn on notifications here on the YouTube channel. Twitch, if you're over there as well, you know how to find my Twitch channel. I restream this stuff on my Twitch channel as well. But make sure you're following us and turn on notifications so that you don't miss whatever is coming up. So I'm gonna speed run a couple super chats. There's no way that we can get through all of the questions and stuff like that. There's just too many good questions that come in with this many people hanging out watching the show. But I'm gonna speed run the end of the super chats here, and then I have something I want to show y'all real quick. Jim Please, $5 saying thanks, Chris G, Doss, and Jack Beyer for hosting today. Jim, thank you so much for the support. We've got Brother Monty Pitts, OSB, with the $50. Brother Money, thank you so much for the $50. That covers a very small portion of what I spent at FedEx yesterday. So thank you so much. Oh, Chris, I didn't tell you, by the way. I'll send you my receipts. Brother Monty Fitz, thank you so much for the $50. We appreciate the support. Keith saying, please add a fixed caption on all streams with no earlier than time. It would really cut down on pointless questions and chat. You must be new here, Keith. Nobody reads what the overlays say. And if we pin a message and put it on the overlay and make it blink with a blink tag in an HTML document somewhere, people would still ask us those questions. We have very little power over the questions that people ask us in chat. But love your work, Keith. Thank you so much, Keith, for the support. The pointless, it's not pointless questions. It's just new people who have showed up and are interested in what's going on. I really don't view any of that as pointless. It is a lot of the times questions that we've already sort of answered, and it's tough to answer them over and over again. But everybody's always welcome to ask their questions. Name's Dave. What's up, Name's Dave? If SN9 successfully lands, would they do a hopper launch from a landing pad back to the launch pad, as there's no launch pad on Mars? I'll get that real quick, Dave. They're not quite there yet. They would still probably need to refuel that rocket. They don't have any of the ground support infrastructure, and it's certainly a possibility once they get to that point, but I don't think that's something for SN9. I think we're a couple SNs away from the rocket landing and then taking back off again without anyone touching it. Basically, like, nope, you can't touch it. It's got to take off again, just like it's supposed to on Mars or whatever. Not quite there yet, but maybe one day we'll see a test like that. Thanks for the 5 curly L's. Mark Garrett's, what's up, Mark? How you doing today? Mark is involved in some behind-the-scenes stuff, especially if you like some of the stuff you can get on the NASA Spaceflight store. With the 15 euros there, saying a new Saturday and a new year, still sitting at home, but enjoying the stream again. Mark, you're not supposed to do super chats since you're actually working with us behind this. It's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. Thank you, Mark, for all you do with the fantastic NASA Spaceflight store. A lot of the designs we get, whether it's the, what is it, launch, what is it, Chris?
Launch,
Sleep, eat, scrub, repeat.
Eat.
Oh,
what is it?
Scrub, repeat. It's eat, sleep, scrub, repeat. Isn't it?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yes, I think it is.
There's a launch one, isn't there? That has to be a launch equivalent of that too, right?
No. I know my buddy has a shirt like that, but ours is eat, sleep, scrub, repeat.
Yeah.
Back from Scrub Timber and Scrubtober and No Launch November. And I mean, anyways. Mark, thank you so much for the support. I'm supposed to be finishing the super chats here. Ben Castle, can we get a compilation video of the fates of each SN for people to see the progress? That sounds like a job for an editor, if only we knew an editor. Jack. I guess the answer is no. We can't get that for you.
Yeah.
We totally can. I didn't quite hear the question, though. You came through broken, so I know it was for me.
It's like the SN9 roundup, or the SN roundup, where we go through all the serial numbers and we show what each serial number did, like SN this, SN that, SN that. This one burned down, fell over, and sank into the swamp. This one landed, like all those sorts of things. That would be a cool recap video.
The 2020 recap video kind of covers that. I mean, it starts at SN1 because that was February of last year. Well, it starts before that with the test tanks and the weird nose cone test tank thing from January. But point being, everything from 1 through 8 is in that 2020 review video. But yeah, I mean, something for everything. You know, this is starting with like Starhopper, I suppose. That would probably be a cool video. So on the list.
All right, and then last but not least, Future Martian 97 with the last $5 of the stream, saying, since we used to have the Bluebird cam, when are we getting the Blue Crab cam? I like it. The Blue Crab cam. Future Martian, appreciate the $5. We don't have a Blue Crab camera, right? That is not something that we're deploying.
We do. I am the Blue Crab camera right now. I do not see any crabs. In fact, Mary said they're pretty rare in our Discord the other day. So if I had seen a crab, I would be pointing at the crab, but right now it's all bored-looking seagulls. But at some point there'll be bonus crab footage for members.
So we're not deploying a blue crab camera this time, Future Martian, but this is what I was going to sort of do here at the very end of the show. This isn't something we've done in the past, but so many people have asked us questions about our robotic cameras, like how do they work, how do you deploy them, what are they built of, that sort of stuff. And so for the first time, I wanted to show one of the robotic cameras on the stream. We haven't released a bunch of photos of these or anything, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing. But let me see. This was working earlier. And if I hop over this way, I should be able to go to this long-range camera. All right. I got a lot of robotic interfaces up right now. Stand by. And I should be able to zoom out this robotic camera. Okay, that worked. Good.
Pull
And then,
the steampunk levers.
Yep.
Yes.
all right, so there's that camera zooming out. And then if I go this way here, that is very slow. Let's go faster. We were doing some testing back at the ranch, where the ranch is actually Jack's hotel room. And if I pan this camera all the way over to the side, we should be able to get a little bit of video of one of our robotic cameras in operation. So this is one of our weatherproof deployable robotic cameras, and it is undergoing a power test right now out at Jack's balcony. And I've got the feed spooled up and that sort of stuff. This is in tracking position, so this thing can actually look all the way up at the ceiling if it needs to. It can track the rocket all the way up, and we can bring it all the way back down again like this. I'm looking at like two robots at the same time, trying to coordinate their motions, and then we can point it back out at the launch site. But this is a 20. You like that?
I love that the first thing you did when you turned the camera we're looking through at it, is you turned it towards the camera. That's showmanship.
Yes.
I had all that set up. It was all set up that way. So that is one of our deployable robotic cameras. The thing you see behind it there, that's actually the antenna. It's just a 4G antenna, MIMO, blah, 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 a bunch of stuff. There's a big control box down underneath, and they're tripod mounted. There's a battery array and stuff like that on it as well. Go ahead.
Das, blink 3 times if you haven't been overtaken by the robots, since you're showing them and showing them off.
Oh, geez. And the funny thing is, I can see the output from that camera, and I can see the other robotic camera. I just don't have this one spooled up to bring the feed into the live stream right now. So there, I can have it look sort of at. You can see the other camera and the reflection of the lens there, if I get it exactly right. But anyways, y'all, that was the first we had shown one of the robotic cameras on the stream here. That's one of the designs we use. That's a weatherproof one. We can leave it out there, and we can leave it unattended. We can operate it off solar power. It packs into a Pelican case. It goes on a standard tripod with a 3/8/16 screw on the top of that, so you can mount it on anything that has a standard tripod mount. But just for the first time, that was something I wanted to show off, since it was undergoing that battery test out there on the hotel balcony right near the camera we were actually using for part of this live stream. But I do believe, unless I've missed anything else, that is going to bring us up to the end of NASA Spaceflight Live today. Chris, Jack, did I miss anything?
I was just going to say to Chris, based on your comments about DOS being overtaken by robot, we need to come up with like a safe word for DOS to say that a robot won't catch on to, but will.
Yes.
Like Cheddar Bay biscuits or something he wouldn't say otherwise. I don't know. Like MechJeb is great, and then we'll be like, oh god, oh geez, we gotta send in the backup. We gotta send in the heavies. The robots got him.
Well, it should just be the word "to," because that doesn't exist in robot language.
Oh, good call.
There you go.
But then if he ever it's got to be an uncommon word or phrase. That's why I say Cheddar Bay biscuits, because
True.
I don't even know what that is.
Isn't that what they sell at what is it? Red Lobster?
It's the Red Lobster biscuit, but what's a Cheddar Bay?
I have no idea, and I haven't been to a Red Lobster in probably more than a decade. So, anyways,
it's a bay with cheese in it. It sounds like.
Sounds delicious.
Oh, I like. Oh, it's the end of the stream. Your battery just died, Jack.
Good battery test there on the stream.
Quick,
camera.
switch to another camera. That's Jack's camera telling us that it's the end of the stream, apparently.
See, we were talking about creating a safe word for the cameras, and they revolted. This is why we need it.
One of them's already turned off. Quick, disconnect it from the internet so it can't talk to the others, Jack.
That's hilarious. Put it in a Faraday cage or bag or whatever.
That's what we'd have to. No network cameras on my ship. Do like a Battlestar Galactica sort of
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Each robot has to live in a vacuum. They're not allowed to talk or communicate to each other.
I'll haul the corded phone out to make the admiral proud.
The corded phone, nice. Anyways, somebody really quickly said nice use of PVC. It is actually a PVC pipe. Previous robots had metal pipes, and the adapter actually started to rust, and so I did go with PVC on this one. It's also a little cheaper to ship because it's lighter, but it's literally a PVC pipe with an adapter and a screw thread on the top to mount the antenna on, and the antenna wires go right down the middle of it. So anyways, yes, it's a PVC pipe. It's literally Home Depot tech right there. So anyways, y'all, that is going to bring us here to the end of NASA Spaceflight Live for today. We do these shows just about every Saturday. Sometimes we don't end up doing the show. If there's like a big event or a launch or something in the time slot, we'll just roll some Q&A into whatever the other event is. But today, with the pushing back of the SN9 testing, static fire no earlier than Monday, 2 days from now, launch no earlier than Tuesday, we had today free to do a regular Q&A. We never get to all the questions. We just don't. We could sit here and talk for 4 hours. We have sat here and talked for 4, 6, 8, 7 hours and not answered all the questions before. But this is something we do. We really do appreciate everybody showing up and joining us for the shows here as we look at live views of Boca Chica. So today on the show, give a round of applause for Chris Gebhardt. Chris, thank you so much for the time today, jumping in and chatting with us.
My absolute pleasure.
Alrighty, follow Chris over there on Twitter at ChrisG_NSF if you want to keep up with what's going on with articles. A big part of what Chris does is manage all of the written articles that are on NASASpaceflight.com. And a lot of times he'll be like, okay, I have to just finish proofreading this article, or we're finishing up writing this, or we got to publish this. So
Very true.
It is, Chris. I mean, that's a huge part that we don't really talk about much on the live streams, and it is
Correct.
a really cool thing that we do. So,
and a very important part of what we do as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's Chris Gebhardt there, y'all, on the live stream today. Chris, again, thank you so much for joining us. All right.
Thank you much.
And Jack, I bet you Jack's already unmuted. So Jack Beyer out there on the beach, dead battery in the camera, but hopefully his audio's working. We still got you, Jack?
Yeah, you got me. And for the record, I have a DC adapter and I have a big battery I can plug into. So I just kind of wanted to see how long one of these batteries would last with this camera. So now we know.
All right, there we go. So Jack is video editor, photographer, wrangler of video files and stuff like. He's out there at Boca Chica. He's actually gone out there. We've got him with a remote kit and a camera. So whenever SN9 goes, he'll be out there. Also, thanks to Jack for wrangling the robots. He now has 2 robots that he has to take care of and get deployed. So one will stay out there on that balcony, and one will end up somewhere. We'll see where it ends up. But Jack, thank you so much for everything you do to make these shows possible.
No problem.
All right. Back in the studio, we had Michael Beyer off and on today. One of the unsung heroes when it comes to overlays and things like the road closures and stuff. Michael, thank you so much for everything you do on the shows.
No problem.
All righty. And I think we did get your audio dialed in correctly as well. So also, Michael was on the robotic camera. So when you saw the Boca Chica camera going around, Michael's written some control software for that so that he can get nice, cool pans and tilts. And last time we actually tracked the flight of SN9 or SN8. And we'll have to figure out which robot we'll try to use to track SN9 when it flies.
But yeah, one fixed robot and one tracking robot or something like that.
Yep. Also, y'all, Mary wasn't here today. She was back uploading clips for the fantastic daily videos every single day. We have these detailed videos of what's going on at Boca Chica. So Mary was uploading some of those videos there and also constantly running around getting all sorts of videos. But we have this present out at Boca Chica because Mary, one of the very few residents who are still standing out there, is a absolute critical member of the NASA spaceflight team there. So make sure you toss her a follow over there at Boca Chica Gal. If you want the hottest, freshest pixels coming out of Boca Chica, sunrise videos, photos that she takes, I don't know, pictures of crabs, whatever. make sure you toss Mary a follow. And as always, even though she wasn't on this stream, we are able to do everything we do out there because Mary got us going, and Mary is a fantastic person to make sure that you follow if you want to keep up with stuff. Also, thanks to all of our members. This is like a super long outro, but whatever. All of our members. The list keeps growing and growing. It gets longer and longer. But all the launch directors and flight engineers that we display here, all the red team and pad rats, however you participate in the streams, whether you're super chatting or whether you're a membership. I know the memberships don't pop up on a regular basis, so why wouldn't I just super chat every month? But massive thanks to everybody who does these memberships, and just every month we have this sort of income that's recurring. We know it's going to be there. We know that we can commit to some expenses because y'all, even when we're not doing a stream, y'all still show up with the membership. So a lot of what we're able to do, especially long-term stuff like commitment to accounts and expenses and stuff, is because of the members' support. So massive thanks to the members. And lastly here, I'm John Galloway, the guy who constantly talks whenever they allow him to have a microphone. Well, I mean, whenever I allow me to have a microphone, whatever, whenever I put on a microphone. Yeah.
I was going to say, allow. You have the master audio button.
I do. It's true. I could mute everybody. But I'm John Galloway for NASASpaceflight. If you watch me over on Twitch, you may know me as DOS. Getting super busy wrangling all the robots and stuff like that. But I want to say thank you to everyone who supports us, whether you show up to the daily videos and you let the ads roll, or whether you do super chats, or whether you do memberships, you buy something from the merch store, or you're a level 2 member, whatever it is, all the different ways that y'all support us. You give me the best job in the world. I have been in my garage designing these robotic assemblies and putting together these deployable cameras. And I can't tell you that I've ever worked so hard in my life. I've done some very long days here trying to get this stuff out, but I wouldn't trade it. I'm able to do it because of y'all's support and because y'all keep showing up to these streams. So I will keep bending over backwards to try and get y'all more camera views, fantastic coverage, and just make these events something that we're able to share with people all over the world. But I'll tell you, I was sitting in my garage and I'm sitting there honestly cussing out a part that I stripped the thread on, or whatever it is that I messed up, because not everything works the first time. But I would not trade it for the world, because it's a massive amount of fun for me to help work on these things and get them deployed out there so that we can bring you all these live streams. So it just struck me as I was working on the robots the last couple of days. I really, really, really want to make sure that everybody who shows up to these streams understands what it means to me back here, allowing me and putting trust in NASASpaceflight to bring you all these events. So thank you, everyone, for everything y'all do to make this possible. I think I've drug the intro/outro out long enough, so we should probably be shutting down the stream now, right? Chris, Jack?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Okay. Who's in charge of shutting down the stream? Oh, wait, that's me. I got to do that too. Anyways, chat, thank y'all so much for the support. Thanks for everything you do. Stay tuned. Make sure you follow the channel here. Make sure you turn on the notifications. Be looking Monday for another static fire stream, hoping that we proceed quickly into a Tuesday, no earlier than flight for SN9. But this is NASASpaceflight signing off, and NASASpaceflight Live here today, and we will see you nerds later. Thank you so much, as always.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll with planet. Water tower, fly! Flight outside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.